All right, beautiful people. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. It is December the 8th, 2021, day 322 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets and of the 3-year consecutive day count. Day 990. Today we are reading Proverbs 13, 14, and 15. And we start our new book today, Jesus.Never.Existed. Right, and this is going to be a pretty short read. We'll be done with this in a few weeks. It's only like 125 pages. Tiffany. Sawubona. Yibo Sawubona. Levon. Hey, girl. Hey, blessings. All right, beautiful people. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's pull up the Shema chapter. Deuteronomy chapter 6 is where it's found. The Shema. Remember, we started reading the whole chapter to hear it all in context. A call for wholehearted commitment. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah, your God, commanded me to teach you. You must obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy, and you and your children and grandchildren must fear Yahuwah, your God, as long as you live. If you obey all his decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life. Listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you, and you will have many children in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as Yahuwah, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Listen, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, he is God alone. And you must love Yahuwah, your God, with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I am giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you are at home and when you're on the road, when you are going to bed and when you're getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Yahuwah, your God, will soon bring you into the land he swore to give you when he made a vow to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is a land with large, prosperous cities that you did not build. The houses will be richly stocked with goods you did not produce. You will draw water from cisterns you did not dig, and you will eat from vineyards and olive trees you did not plant. When you have eaten your fill in this land, be careful not to forget Yahuwah, who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. You must fear Yahuwah your God and serve him. When you take an oath, you must use only his name. You must not worship any of the gods of the neighboring nations, for Yahuwah your God, who lives among you, is a jealous God. His anger will flare up against you, and he will wipe you from the face of the earth. You must not test Yahuwah your God as you did when you complained at Massah. You must diligently obey the commands of Yahuwah your God, all the laws and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in Yahuwah's sight, so all will go well with you. Then you will enter and occupy the good land that Yahuwah swore to give to your ancestors. You will drive out all the enemies living in the land, just as Yahuwah said you would. In the future, your children will ask you, what is the meaning of these laws, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah our God has commanded us to obey? Then you must tell them, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, but Yahuwah brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. Yahuwah did miraculous signs and wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt and Pharaoh and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land he had sworn to give to our ancestors. And Yahuwah our God commanded us to obey all these decrees, to fear him, so he can continue to bless us and preserve our lives as he has done to this day. For we will be counted as righteous when we obey all the commands Yahuwah our God has given us. Josiah, shalom. All right, y'all. Let's head on over to the book of Proverbs. Hold on, my glasses. Proverbs chapter 13. That's better. A wise child accepts a parent's discipline. A mocker refuses to listen to correction. Wise words will win you a good meal, but treacherous people have an appetite for violence. Those who control their tongue will have long life. Opening your mouth can ruin everything. Lazy people want much but get little, but those who work hard will prosper. The godly hate lies. The wicked cause shame and disgrace. Godliness guards the path of the blameless, but the evil are misled by sin. Some who are poor pretend to be rich. Others who are rich pretend to be poor. The rich can pay a ransom for their lives, but the poor won't even get threatened. The life of the godly is full of light and joy, but the light of the wicked will be snuffed out. Pride leads to conflict. Those who take advice are wise. Wealth from get-rich-quick schemes quickly disappears. Wealth from hard work grows over time. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a dream fulfilled is a tree of life. People who despise advice are asking for trouble. Those who respect a command will succeed. The instruction of the wise is like a life-giving fountain. Those who accept it avoid the snares of death. A person with good sense is respected. A treacherous person is headed for destruction. Wise people think before they act. Fools don't, and even brag about their foolishness. An unreliable messenger stumbles into trouble, but a reliable messenger brings healing. If you ignore criticism, you will end in poverty and disgrace. If you accept correction, you will be honored. It is pleasant to see dreams come true, but fools refuse to turn from evil to attain them. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. Trouble chases sinners, while blessings reward the righteous. Good people leave an inheritance to their grandchildren, but the sinner's wealth passes to the godly. A poor person's farm may produce much food, but injustice sweeps it all away. Those who spare the rod of discipline hate their children. Those who love their children care enough to discipline them. The godly eat to their heart's content, but the belly of the wicked goes hungry. Next chapter, Proverbs chapter 14. A wise woman builds her home, but a foolish woman tears it down with her own hands. Those who follow the right path fear Yahuwah. Those who take the wrong path despise him. A fool's proud talk becomes a rod that beats him, but the words of the wise keep them safe. Without oxen, the stable stays clean, but you need a strong ox for a large harvest. An honest witness does not lie. A false witness breathes lies. A mocker seeks wisdom and never finds it, but knowledge comes easily to those with understanding. Stay away from fools. You won't find knowledge on their lips. The prudent understand where they are going, but fools deceive themselves. Fools make fun of guilt, but the godly acknowledge it and seek reconciliation. Each heart knows its own bitterness, and no one else can fully share its joy. The house of the wicked will be destroyed, but the tent of the godly will flourish. There is a path before each person that seems right, but it ends in death. Laughter can conceal a heavy heart, but when the laughter ends, the grief remains. Backsliders get what they deserve, and good people receive their reward. Only simpletons believe everything they're told. The prudent carefully consider their steps. The wise are cautious and avoid danger. Fools plunge ahead with reckless confidence. Short-tempered people do foolish things, and schemers are hated. Simpletons are clothed with foolishness, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. Evil people will bow before good people. The wicked will bow at the gates of the godly. The poor are despised even by their neighbors, while the rich have many friends. It is a sin to belittle one's neighbor. Blessed are those who help the poor. If you plan to do evil, you will be lost. If you plan to do good, you will receive unfailing love and faithfulness. Work brings profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. Wealth is a crown for the wise. The effort of fools yields only foolishness. A truthful witness saves lives, but a false witness is a traitor. Those who fear Yahuwah are secure. He will be a refuge for their children. Fear of Yahuwah is a life-giving fountain. It offers escape from the snares of death. A growing population is a king's glory. A prince without subjects has nothing. People with understanding control their anger. A hot temper shows great foolishness. A peaceful heart leads to a healthy body. Jealousy is like cancer in the bones. Those who oppress the poor insult their maker, but helping the poor honors him. The wicked are crushed by disaster, but the godly have a refuge when they die. Wisdom is enshrined in an understanding heart. Wisdom is not found among fools. Godliness makes a nation great, but sin is a disgrace to any people. A king rejoices in wise servants, but is angry with those who disgrace him. Next chapter for the day, y'all. Proverbs chapter 15, and it's the last chapter for the day. Joy Shalom, grand rising. A gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. The tongue of the wise makes knowledge appealing, but the mouth of fools belches out foolishness. The Lord is watching everywhere, keeping his eye on both the evil and the good. Gentle words are a tree of life. A deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. Only a fool despises a parent's discipline. Whoever learns from correction is wise. There is treasure in the house of the godly, but the earnings of the wicked bring trouble. The lips of the wise give good advice. The heart of a fool has none to give. Yahuwah detests the sacrifice of the wicked, but he delights in the prayers of the upright. Yahuwah detests the way of the wicked, but he loves those who pursue godliness. Whoever abandons the right path will be severely disciplined. Whoever hates correction will die. Even death and destruction hold no secrets from Yahuwah. How much more does he know the human heart? Mockers hate to be corrected, so they stay away from the wise. A glad heart makes a happy face. A broken heart crushes the spirit. A wise person is hungry for knowledge, while the fool feeds on trash. For the despondent, every day brings trouble. For the happy heart, life is a continual feast. Better to have little with fear of Yahuwah than to have great treasure and inner turmoil. A bowl of vegetables with someone you love is better than steak with someone you hate. A hot-tempered person starts a fight. A cool-tempered person stops them. A lazy person's way is blocked with briars, but the path of the upright is an open highway. Sensible children bring joy to their father. Foolish children despise their mother. Foolishness brings joy to those with no sense. A sensible person stays on the right path. Plans go wrong for lack of advice. Many advisors bring success. Everyone enjoys a fitting reply. It is wonderful to say the right thing at the right time. The path of life leads upward for the wise. They leave the grave behind. Yahuwah tears down the house of the proud, but he protects the property of widows. Yahuwah detests evil plans, but he delights in pure words. Greed brings grief to the whole family, but those who hate bribes will live. The heart of the godly thinks carefully before speaking. The mouth of the wicked overflows with evil words. Yahuwah is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayers of the righteous. A cheerful look brings joy to the heart. Good news makes for good health. If you listen to constructive criticism, you will be at home among the wise. If you reject discipline, you only harm yourself. But if you listen to correction, you grow in understanding. Fear of Yahuwah teaches wisdom. Humility precedes honor. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. That was Proverbs 13, 14, and 15. Ooh. Stretch. Okay, y'all. Today we are starting our new book, Jesus Never Existed. And I think that's going to be our title for today, right? Look, let me tell y'all something. I told y'all, I keep track. Not that I'm keeping track, but I'm not keeping track. The only reason why I'm keeping track of like subscribers, like every day when I write down my notes, I keep count of the subscribers that I have for that day, right? And so I've noticed the pattern. And I noticed in any video that I talk about Jesus not being real or not existing, I tend to lose subscribers. And that tells me that either they really haven't been paying attention, or after a couple weeks of not even watching one of the videos, they just happen to come to that video today where they hear it again, which to me is no coincidence. I personally think Yahuwah is trying to get their attention. But when they hear it, it's like, oh, red flags go up, and then unsubscribe. She's speaking heresy. Don't come back to this channel, right? I look at it that way. I figure they're just not ready, right? So it's time for them to part ways. They may come back. Then again, they may not, right? But I notice a trend. Anytime I say something like that, and I know it, the subscribers drop from, let's see, it drops, it fluctuates, it goes up and down. Like, hold on. Monday, hold on. I say, yeah, Monday. There's another good one. Like every so often when I speak about it, like they'll steady grow. But then when I specifically speak about this, somebody, and I realize it's somebody who's still full of Christianity, they click on it. Like I say, they haven't been paying attention, then they unsubscribe. Some of them leave me a nice nasty message or let me know I'm going to be praying for you. You done turned away from the Savior. I'm like, you need to find somewhere else to go. But anyway, so it jumped from 986 down to 982. And then after it begins to drop off, it'll go back up by 1 or 2, and then it'll drop back down. Then on yesterday, it dropped down to 980. And I didn't check it again this morning before I got back on. But yeah, we'll see how much it's done went up or went down. But I thought that was really, really interesting, you know. So and that may not be true what I'm formulating in my mind while the numbers are fluctuating up and down, but it's always on those days. And I began to notice that a couple months ago. Anytime I said something like that, the numbers would drop. And then it start climbing back up. I'm like, well, hey, make room for those who want to hear the truth, right? Not that I care, but I just like to keep numbers. And I'm like this data type person, you know, because it helps me to know what's going on. It helps me to understand some of the finer details. Joy said, I'm glad I learned very early in my transition not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I kept listening even though I wasn't there yet at the time. Yeah, sometimes it's just like, oh. Like I had one lady, she come in from time to time. She's pretty new. She told me, she said, Pam, I almost unsubscribed from your channel. Because she came in on a part where it's like, ooh, is this heresy? What's being said here? Hold on. Let me try and get a full story of what's going on here, right? So that's how some people come in like, ooh, what? What she just said? What she say? I don't know about this. Let me listen just to make sure I ain't tripping. But then they get pulled in and they start listening. I'm like, well, wait a minute. That kind of makes sense. You know, so I get it. I understand it. I was there, right? On some things I'm still waking up to. I'm just like, wait a minute. Like, even, y'all, we're going to get into it. I think the next book, I had chosen a next book almost. Like, I got a couple that's kind of like, but now that I'm learning more about ancient Egypt and what was really going on, I think I might let y'all choose the next book. So the more I'm still kind of going through it and going through the scriptures and everything, I'm making sure I'm understanding these things correctly, so while praying and just going through it, I'm like, wait a minute, this would have been beneficial for us to know these things even before coming into Christianity. Matter of fact, if Christianity had taken the approach that ancient Egypt had taken while teaching their pupils or teaching their citizens, we wouldn't be in this mess. We would not be reading this today, right? See, because ancient Egypt, there's a lot of stories in ancient Egypt, but from the time they began teaching you, they let you know that these stories are myths, right? And ancient Egypt or Kemet, they teach you that they use characters and they create different gods and stuff to help you understand the principles of Yahuwah and the different attributes of Yahuwah. So where we have been taught, and granted, down the line, when leadership and stuff began to change, when ancient Egypt began to be infiltrated, there were some things that began to change and people began to do, i.e. worshiping things that they shouldn't be worshiping, right? But in ancient Egypt, that was not the case. Ancient Egypt told you that these are created characters, but it's to teach you about a certain attribute of the one and only creator of the earth, the one and only God. So each attribute of the creator, they created into a character because they were teaching children. They started teaching them early, literally almost from the time they come from the womb. So the way children learn, that's the way they created their teachings and stories and myths, because it's easy. Think about it. It's easy to remember a story, especially a story with emotion. Girl, what happened? And let me tell you, look, especially somebody that's animated, it's easy to remember that versus somebody rattling off data and facts, right? It's easy to remember a story if you learn the story. And as you learn the story when you're younger, think about nursery rhymes and things like that. They teach you nursery rhymes or the alphabet song to teach you something or to get data into you in a way that's conducive, first of all, to how you created and how you think. And we remember in terms of stories because we can remember all the details. If we see the story played out in movie form, or somebody is a really good storyteller and they add emotion to it, you're able to remember all the parts of the story. And once they taught the children the story, as they got older, they began to teach them the lessons behind the story, behind the characters, to where that original ancient teaching, where they literally worship the creator, at some point in time down the line, it got chopped and screwed to where, no, they're worshiping gods. And the characters that the ancient people knew were characters, even the children knew were characters, somehow they became real gods and stuff. Y'all, when I say it's been blowing my mind, it's been freaking blowing my mind, right? So, I got like 10 books on ancient Egypt, and I just been kind of going through. I wish I could read them all at the same time, because I like to take in a lot of information, especially when something is getting so good. It's like you can't get enough of it. I want it all like right now, but I know I have to have time to assimilate and process things, so my whole outlook on everything now, it's just kind of expanding or growing. And as I look at the stories in the Old Testament, now that I have some information on ancient Egypt, I'm understanding a little bit better why Yahuwah sent his people into ancient Egypt, right? Because remember, there was a shift in Egypt while Israel was there. Because remember, Israel lived good while they were in Egypt. They were blessed. Egypt was blessed. It wasn't until they started violating the principles of ancient Egypt, or the principles of creation, or the principles and commands and teachings of Yah on how to operate here in this realm, it wasn't until they began violating those things where the leadership teachings and everything changed, and they began to oppress Yahuwah's people. Yahuwah brought Israel into Egypt, not only to be protected by Egypt, because Egypt protected Israel, right? The nation of Egypt protected Israel. Israel joined in with them. They fought with them. Remember when they was about to go to war with their cousins? You'll find that story in the Apocrypha, in the book of Jasher, and you can read a little bit of it in Jubilees, but mostly in Jasher. They were going to fight, and when Pharaoh found out that they were about to actually fight against the people who they found out were the cousins to Israel, they decided Israel was ready to go. Israel didn't realize who they were about to fight. And then when the Pharaoh found out, oh, these their cousins, you know what? Maybe it's not such a good idea that Israel go fight with us, because when we get out there to the battlefield, it's possible that they could change their allegiance to us and no longer fight with us and decide to take up arms and begin to fight with their family. And they would outnumber us and they would destroy us. So when they went to talk to Egypt, when Egypt went to talk to Israel, they was like, yo, we ready to go. What y'all want us to do? You know, we like blood brothers, right? They was ready to go. And Egypt had to tell Israel a few times, the fight, nope, y'all go home. This is not y'all fight. We don't want to pull y'all into this, right? So I'm like, okay, now I'm beginning to see some of these things unfold. I'm getting a bigger picture, right? The more you know, the more you grow, right? So we might, like I said, it depends. Once we get through with this, I'll see where we're at, and then I'll decide whether we want to start doing that or continue to just put the nail in the coffin on a fictitious characters. And if y'all want to still just drive the nails in more on the coffin, and the point is to wake you up that the New Testament was a story that was created, right? You can use it for its strengths and you can use it for its weaknesses. You can take some principles back there, which are good principles, which have been taken from the Old Testament. Nevertheless, they're still true. They're good principles that you can use and apply to your life. But as long as you understand that these are characters, and the characters were created to teach you a lesson, teach you some principles or some things where you might not have caught on to if we had just rattle off data and facts to you, right? Some people like data and facts like me. I know how to use data and facts, right? Because when I get the data and facts, I'm like, boom, okay. And I can go back and I can, I can kind of backtrack with my data and facts to build the story and see what's going on. That's just the way I work. Some people do that, some people don't. Some people just need the story. Okay, the principle behind it. Okay, boom, we'll just keep rolling with that, right? That's what I'm learning about ancient Egypt. Right. And that's why they were so blessed, because in all of what they did, their whole outlook on everything was to not cause harm to anyone, not to violate anyone, not to misuse anyone, not to defile or speak against the Creator, who is the source of knowledge and wisdom of all things. Right. They were given such wisdom. Ancient Egypt, they were given such wisdom to create these type of stories to teach their nation, that their teachings have spread out all throughout the world, to India, to Europe, to a lot of different places, to Asia, right? So as you begin to learn it, you will see bits and pieces are scattered from the portions that they've taken from the teachings. And what they've done, they've taken the teachings of ancient Egypt, and when they took it to their culture, India began to teach these same principles, but they changed the names from the Egyptian characters and gave them Indian names, but the principles stayed the same, right? The same thing with Asia and all these different places. So now you got these places Now, some of them, they are worshiping God. Some really don't understand what's going on, that the characters that were created are attributes of the most holy. But some people looking at us, oh, these are real gods that existed. No, they weren't. Y'all are not paying attention. Or you must still be in pre-K. Where you learning it, right? You just learning a story, right? Remember how I tell you, start over, and before you get all super spiritual, just learn the story. Learn who were the characters, who were their God, what did they do, who were their enemies. That's the first thing you need to do. Don't start over trying to pull out principles and speak, because you're gonna get off. Learn the story first and learn it well. Then, now that you learn the story, you know about the family, you know the struggles that ensued, that they fought against, their victories and everything. Once you got that down and you really understand that, just the base knowledge, now let's move and let's show you the principles behind all these different things, this situation, and what it does. Once you begin to develop that way, you begin to take that information, them stories, those characters, the attributes of the most holy, and now we take it and turn it inward. Because the stories are all about you. It's all about us. The good and the evil that fights, that we struggle with within us. Satan and Jesus, the good and bad that we find within ourselves, right? It's the same thing. Y'all, when I tell you, it's blowing my mind. It's freaking blowing my mind. I'm like, you know what? I feel like I'm back in kindergarten. But I'm learning so much, right? So, but I'll let y'all choose. If y'all want to keep going on, because everybody here, at least the day one, so the ones that's been here for a minute, like, we get it. We know. And, you know, when you get to a certain point, it's like, we need more. Or we're gonna grow stagnant, and then we're going to start having some rebels and some ruffians in the class, because you're not doing anything to help them continue to grow or to develop their knowledge, their learning. Give us something we can practice, use our hands to do stuff. If we don't continue to grow, it's just going to get bad here, right? So I don't want to stay on a certain subject for too long. I want to make sure we get it, we understand it, and let's move to the next step. People going to come, people going to go, right? Some people may already be at a level that we're not quite at yet, and they may join us when we get there. Oh, y'all ready now? I'm going to sit in on this part. All right, got what I need. I'm out. Right? So after we read this right here, Jesus never existed, we're gonna look at a couple of things. And I think I'm gonna let y'all choose. Y'all let me know if y'all want to keep going, because like I said, I got some more lined up. I haven't chosen them yet, but I got them lined up, including the third installation of Caesar's Messiah that further drives the nail into the coffin, that the New Testament is created stories and characters. Some stuff is true, right? But the majority of it is fictional. It's fictitious, rather. So, I just want to throw that out there. Y'all think about that for a little bit and let me know. Or if you're ready to, let's graduate to first grade. Or, no, not first grade. We're going to kindergarten, right? Because we're leaving pre-K. Pre-K is just like we learning the stories, right? It's time to move. It's time to grow, right? We can go up another level. But y'all let me know what y'all want to do. Just think about it. Let that marinate deep down in your shana. Think about it, right? Okay. Yahuwah is one. May the great spirit of heaven and earth guide you and teach you too. Teach us all. Yes and amen. Hallelujah. Okay, y'all. Jesus Never Existed is by Kenneth Humphreys, an introduction to the ultimate heresy. We've already been introduced to this, but I thought it was a good read. So, let's get started. It's a funny picture on the front page. Jesus never existed. He looked like he know he didn't exist. Like, how many times we got to go through this? Okay. Excuse me, there seems to have been some sort of mistake. Life of Brian. That was a quote. Okay. Part 1. An introduction to the ultimate heresy. 1. The Jesus of history, memory, or myth. Is the story of Jesus remembered history or a religious fable? When many other arguments for a historical Jesus fall over, you will often hear the argument, well, mainstream historians say there was a Jesus, so that must settle it. There must have been a Jesus. It's also the case that many atheists, though convinced that there is no God, will also say, well, I think there was a Jesus. I hope to convince you that mainstream historians and atheists, possibly influenced by them, are actually wrong. Let's first of all clarify just who it is we're talking about. We're not speaking of any old character of first century Galilee who had the name Jesus. There were lots of those, literally thousands, because Yeshua or Yehoshua was one of the most common Jewish names of the time. No, we're speaking of a character who was supposedly the source and inspiration for the fantastical tales that fill the pages of the New Testament. Yes, I'm allowing for the fact that embellishment and exaggeration could have been applied to an original, simple, and genuine tale, that the man behind the legend may have been a rather ordinary character. But of course, he could not have been too ordinary, or he would not have stood out from the thousands of others who shared his name. Let me introduce you to one such figure, one favored by mainstream historians such as Bart Ehrman and others. For such historicists, the real Jesus was a prophet, in the style of earlier Jewish prophets who had a following for his particular brand of end-time doom and gloom, because he was unexpectedly executed. His despairing followers reinvented him as a risen Messiah or Christ. All else in the New Testament is embellishment and invention. So here we have a rationalized, acceptable Jesus who doesn't suspend the laws of the universe, but he's only one of hundreds of rationalized Jesuses. You may have a favorite of your own, a radical rabbi, a Jewish nationalist, a healer, a teacher, you name it. They are all equally valid and all equally speculative, floating free of any factual foundation. Why do I say these various alternative Jesuses are speculations? Because not one of them is based on hard, verifiable evidence from non-biblical sources. Any one of them is possibly true, but is any of them even probably true? Each is derived from a selective reading of gospel stories. Each is built up from certain passages, discounting all the rest as pious fabrication. That's why the so-called mainstream historians cut the ground from beneath each other's feet. What appears as pious fabrication to one is the residual element of a genuine historical episode to another. Yet not one part of the story is immune from being pious fiction to some and having the ring of truth to others. But there is an alternative to this, free for all. Join the dots and make your own Jesus approach. And that is to recognize that these speculations are no better than seeing the signs of the zodiac in the night sky. In reality, there is no figure there, whether a sign of the zodiac or a Jesus of Nazareth. Christianity makes a claim that a truly fabulous character started the movement, with his teachings and miracles climaxing in his resurrection appearances after death. But can rational minds really claim that some minor teacher below the visible event horizon of history was either necessary or useful to a story that is acknowledged to be, in all salient respects, fabricated from religious literature? The simplest and most parsimonious, you know what? Let's do one of these type-ins so I don't sound crazy. Belinda Brown. Hey, Auntie Shalom. Hold on. Let me type this word in, y'all. P-A-R-I-S. Oh, no. Spelled it wrong. P-R-S. Parsimonious. I think it's parsimonious.
Parsimonious.
Okay. Okay. The simplest form and most parsimonious explanation is that no human Jesus ever existed. Okay. Parsimonious means unwilling to spend money or use resources, stingy or frugal. Okay, the simplest and most frugal explanation is that no human Jesus ever existed. Okay. Although respected historians think that it required the memory of a dead holy man to get the first Christians to dream up a resurrected Messiah, in truth, merely the idea of a dead holy man works just as well. And we can be absolutely certain it was just the idea of a dead holy man, because the only one thing we can say about the Gospels is that they were not written by simple, illiterate, Aramaic-speaking fishermen and peasants who knew Jesus. They were written decades later by literate, educated men who wrote in Greek and were, incidentally, rather hazy about the Jewish landscape. We're not dealing with eyewitnesses. The gospel writers either had to be told the story or had to read their inspiration elsewhere. And what could they have read in the holy books of the Jews, translated into Greek centuries later? They would have read of healing and resurrection miracles, tales of food multiplication, of divine judgment, of wise prophets and special communication with God who wander about making pleasing and sometimes enigmatic wisdom statements. They would have read of a suffering servant who takes on the sins of the world, of babies born by divine intervention. In other words, they would have read all the core elements needed to write an inspiring story of a Jewish Savior, God-man, a Jesus Christ. All good stuff, of course, for a religious fable, but it isn't history and it isn't true. Chapter 2, Heresy, the man who never was. There is a big difference between a history embroidered with propaganda, such as we find, for example, in Julius Caesar's Gallic Wars, and a fantasy placed into historical setting. Such an example of that would be Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes. The Jesus tale is very much in the latter category. It is a fictional drama in which a stereotypic hero has been intruded into a more or less realistic historical landscape. Let me read that again. It is a fictional drama in which a stereotypic hero has been intruded into a more or less realistic historical landscape. As we would expect from a fictional creation, there exists not a single contemporary reference to such a character, not a single genuine artifact, nothing to substantiate that he ever walked the earth. The traditional, authorized version of Christian origins is a Big Bang theory. It suggests that one day the only begotten Son of God materialized in a virgin's womb. He grew to manhood, assembled his disciples, imparted his wisdom, died and rose again. From this, a religion was born. How far should the rational thinker buy into this story? The idea of Jesus convinces many that someone must lie beneath the encrusted legends. Many, of course, reduce the Christian superstar to a dimly perceived good man who perhaps said some wise words, fell afoul of Roman and Jewish authorities, and managed to get himself crucified. The Big Bang Theory now boils down to a little more than 1, Christianity exists. 2, it must have begun somewhere. 3, it began with a single character. 4, here's my version of who he really was. And favorites include an itinerant philosopher or a religious reformer, a pacifist like Gandhi, or a militant like Che Guevara. I may have messed that name up. I'm sorry. In fact, Jesus has been reformed 100 times. One thing of which historians and New Testament scholars are well aware is the trajectory by which the Jesus tale developed from an original text. Matthew, Luke, and even the fourth gospel built upon a brief original tale lacking both the nativity and post-death appearances written at an uncertain date by an anonymous author. That's a good question, Nichelle. Who is Yahusha, and is it possible that faith and belief could have brought him to life? Let me answer that question this way. Clearly, we know Yahusha is a character that was made up, right? Because there is Yah, and everything comes out of Yah, right? So the character was created. When people... Let me see if I can explain this a better way. Okay. So you know how it's all about perception. You know how if anybody have ever been in their house by themselves, right? And know you're in your house by yourself, right? It's kind of funny, but I think it'll get the point across. And you could not even be in your house. You could be anywhere else. It's about perception. But if you perceive you're in trouble, your body begins to do things. Adrenaline is increased because you perceive, even though you might not actually be in any kind of trouble, if you perceive that you are, your body begins to act that way, right? Your thoughts literally control your body and how it operates, what it does, and what it puts out, right? We're not bodies. We are spirits who uses bodies to transverse this realm, right? So in order to, I ain't gonna say legally be here. I'll say in order to legally be in this realm, you have to have a body. And I think I'm kind of changing my stance on that now that I'm understanding a little bit more. But you get what I'm saying. To operate here amongst the other people, right? At least those who don't understand deeper truths and how matter and volume and mass and all that quite works and don't know how to manipulate it yet. In order to operate it by default, our spirits control these bodies. Yes, Dana, fight or flight is how we're designed, right? What your spirit thinks, your spirit thinks, it sends thoughts to the brain, right? A part of this avatar, this body, and the body automatically begins to respond. So if fear is triggered, the body's already designed to do certain things. And it can be controlled by you simply replacing that thought, I'm not in trouble. Breathe, calm down. And it stops the flow of adrenaline and everything going through your body, right? It's about your perception. It's how we are designed. So if you think you're in trouble or you perceive you're in trouble, you're going to do things like a person in trouble would. It's fight or flight. Either you're going to stand up, hey, what? You're going to fight whoever there, or you're going to take off running. That adrenaline going to kick in and you're going to take off to save your life, right? But in all actuality, it could have just been the wind blowing, rustling some leaves a little loudly. And because you weren't aware of your surroundings or what was really in your atmosphere, you got triggered in a certain way and you perceived it wrong, right? And it's possible if your perception is really strong, you could kill yourself in the process, right? Think about black people. I ain't gonna say black, but y'all get it. Black people, and it's been like a running joke, right? Black people see somebody taking off running, looking crazy, everybody taking off running. I ain't gonna say it's just black people, but I know my people do it a lot. We're going to take off running. We ain't asking no questions. I see you running. Your face look crazy. Trouble must be coming. I'm running too, right? It's about perception. So yes, faith could have brought him to life in your life. When in all actuality, it wasn't him, it was the creator. But because what you have put inside of you your filter, your experiences in life. And if your experiences in life says this certain thing is connected to this, and every time we experience this, they relate that to this, it brings it to life for you until you get information that causes you to grow, right? To challenge that information that you were currently holding, that kind of loosens the bands, and it's like, wait a minute, hold on. So that can be that it is. Now we got this information. Wait, what's going on here, right? Now you have to grow. You have to choose to grow. You have to choose to expand, right? Because the more information you have, now you have to adjust what it is you believe. You can adjust or you can choose not to adjust. And you can continue calling this bottle of water a bottle of soda, right? Yeah, it does say that in Deuteronomy chapter 28, Gil. The sound of rustling leaves gonna send you running. It's found in Deuteronomy 28. Yes. So yeah, it's about perception, and belief can bring anything to life, right? Good or bad. It's a unseen principle, but seen when you operate on its principles, right? And there's a lot of principles behind things, and if you apply them to your life, you can use it for good or evil, for the betterment or the destruction of your life, right? Those principles are neither good nor bad. They're simply tools to help us to grow while we're here in this, let's say, what we want to call Earth. I would say here, Earth, this universe is like a simulation, kind of like the Matrix, right? Okay, is it true that Yahusha means Yahuwah saves? Yeah, it's like the definition of his name. It's not a separate person, it's the definition, but they've made the definition into a person, or they made the definition a character. Just like I was talking about earlier, in the ancient Egyptian teachings, every aspect of the creator, they turned into a character to help the children learn better, right? So wisdom, I believe, was called Jehudi, right? But people now worship Jehudi as a god, like the god of wisdom. Or I think in the Hindu faith, Jehudi is called, or the god of wisdom, or the attribute of Yah, which is wisdom. I forget the name. It's a bunch of them I've been kind of going through. But they take the attributes. Here's what's happened. They've taken the attributes of the creator, just like we are. Every one of us, we are an attribute or something that comes out of our creator, and we have a name, right? But instead of people seeing it how it should be seen, how it was designed to help us to grow, to be able to learn who our creator is, and learn thereby, if we learn who our creator is, we will understand everything around us. So it's like, how can I say this? If you go all the way back to Genesis, right? Remember how everything was created first before he created man and woman, and then he put them in a garden to tend it? It was like he wanted to, I'm trying to make sure I put this in words where I don't confuse you. He created his children, but he want his children, like, it's like a learning center. Earth is like a learning center for Yahuwah's children, right? It's like a nursery. You know how you go to nursery and you got these little teaching toys and all these things to help you develop. This is literally, you can look at Earth like that, right? It's like a learning center for Yahuwah's children, right? So everything about himself, he has taken out and given it a physical form. And he created all of that before he put us here. And now as we learn and grow and we learn about creation and trees and even begin to learn about our bodies, we will see that our bodies is a smaller, literally microcosm of the earth around us. Everything that's outside that we can see, we will ultimately find on the inside of us in every area. You can even see animals in creation within our own bodies, right? Depending on what aspect of our body you're looking at, whether internally or outwardly, everything within inside of us, we can see somewhere in nature. And when we begin to understand that and see that, we begin to understand who our Creator really is, and that we are a part of the Creator. Hence, we can also do the things that the Creator can do. He gave us the ability to do that, to bear children. We also can create children and reproduce. We were made in the image of our Creator. We literally are just like Him. He put us in a place to do what He has done for us, right? He built the home for us, live in, explore. We build families, have children, build a home, provide, build it. It's the same repeating cycle to teach us about our Creator, right? Guys, this can be expanded on so many levels. And I began to listen. Look, my mind began to explode and look at all these things. And when I began to learn about how ancient Egypt taught their people about who God, who Yah really is, right? And they got that wisdom from him, from Yah himself. It's really amazing, right? So, but yeah, I would say that it's a definition, but it's not a person. Even in the book, even in Proverbs, in Proverbs chapter 8 is a really good chapter. It's that same principle we can see throughout the scripture, where different words like wisdom is personified like a woman, right? It refers to wisdom as a she, but it's an attribute of the Creator himself. But to help us to understand it, Proverbs is telling us about a story about this wonderful, beautiful woman named Wisdom, right? She does everything right, everything about her. The words that come off her lips is sweet as honey. She'll turn even the simplest person into a wise sage, right? But we know wisdom is not really a woman, right? We know it's an attribute. It's something that's imparted into you from the Creator himself to help you understand and interact with the world around you, and have the ability to take raw data, which is knowledge, information, and turn it into working wisdom for your life. Wisdom is the ability to apply knowledge and data. It's the ability to take raw facts or knowledge and then to assimilate, to understand it, in all you're getting, get understanding. Now you understand this information, this data, and not only do you understand it, now you know how to apply it. That's wisdom. That's when wisdom comes in. Wisdom is the ability to apply what you've learned at the right time, and also the ability to know when not to apply it, right? So just using discernment, need to unlearn and readjust everything I've known. I have questioned this, but was too afraid to come to terms with it. Thank you. No problem. You're welcome. Look, we all learning. We here learning together. If I know something, or I think I know something, I'm going to share it with y'all. If it's off, y'all think it's off, y'all let a sister know. We all learning together. Some things I realized that I gotten off, but when I realized, wait a minute, I don't think that was right, y'all. Let's backtrack. Let's go back and look at this again, right? So, but that's something that I've learned, that I have to be transparent, and I have to be willing to accept that sometimes I may not always be right, because I could be wrong. And by understanding and knowing that, I have to be able to be like, you know what, I got to go fix this. Let's correct this. And especially if it's something I said to a bunch of people, we got to fix that post haste, right? Because we don't want a bunch of people going into the wrong direction. Yeah, so, but yeah, y'all. I was saying something too about, and then I started looking at the question again. I forgot what I was saying, but it was about the characters in ancient Egypt and how people have gotten off as actually worshiping them as real gods and stuff, you know. And we know a lot of that from our readings when we were reading through fossilized customs, right? Because through fossilized customs, we learned about a lot of these gods that people began to worship, right? So we got that aspect of it. We know how it's going awry with that, right? Worshiping the sun god Ra and all that stuff, right? But there was a deeper teaching that was taught in ancient Kemet, right? Or ancient Egypt, Kemet is the name for ancient Egypt. It just changed. They changed it to Egypt as time began to progress. But the teachings were actually pure and wholesome, right? And it wasn't worshiping creation or other things that were not Yah himself, but they knew that all of creation comes out of Yah. And when they gave praise and honor and thanks, they were praising the Creator. But they were able to teach it in story form to their people, so they can understand about the different aspects of who he is, right? And then also how those aspects of him we can also find in ourselves, and it teaches us how to grow and overcome like the lower nature. So in ancient Kemet, in their stories, their Satan would be Set. S-E-T. That would be Satan in ancient Egypt, Set, right? But Set represented everything selfish about you, all those things, or like being born into sin, all of those things would be Set. So when they were referring to something like that, or ill will and malice and all that, that would be connected with the character or the god Set. And where in Christianity it would be Satan. It's the same thing. All those, you can't control yourself, lack of self-control, can't control your mouth. All of those things is connected to Satan. But it's the same principles that's trying to be taught. It's just different cultures, different backgrounds. They use their culture's names for those same attributes of Yahuwah. Remember, Yahuwah said, I create good and I create evil. There's a perfect balance in everything. It's all to teach us. The principles aren't evil themselves. It's the intent behind the person using those principles. So you can take wealth, right? Wealth in itself is not bad, but people are taught, you get rich, you get snobby, and, rich folks are mean, and all these bad things that you hear about people with wealth. If that's your perception, and that's what you're going to perceive, and that's what you're going to always begin to encounter. But that's not my experience with people who are wealthy. Yes, babe.
You don't have makeup.
I know. I washed it off, Tootie.
You do it for mine.
Yeah, we'll do it again. She got this little makeup set. We had like this little tea party, and she did makeup all over my face. I had glitter everywhere. I was washing my face for a minute trying to get all that glitter off my face. I think I got it all off. But what was I saying? Hold on. Oh, that's not my experience with wealth. My experience with wealthy people is that they are generous, right? They actually look out for people. They want to teach you how they got it. They don't want to just give you their money. They want to teach you how they got it, so you also can walk in that principle in wisdom and be able to build wealth, right? So it's all about the intention of the people who are using it. And while growing, wait a minute, Bella. While growing, you have to learn about these principles, and then it's your choice on how to use them. Or you can use it for the betterment of your life and your growth, for yourself and your family, or you can just use it to be rogue. Think about the movie Doctor Strange. Remember the teacher, the guru lady, I forget her name. I love that movie. But the bald head lady who was a sage, remember when Doctor Strange, she was like, teach me. When he found out he could astral project, and she just touched him and opened his eyes just a little bit. And it's like, it's a whole world out here that you don't even realize exists, right? You haven't been exposed to it yet, so you don't know it exists. In that movie, remember how when he was going through the training school and they was there into the library and everything, and found out there was a set of students. Matter of fact, the movie starts with these set of rogue students who decided that as they learned a little bit of the principles, they were going to go out there in the world and begin to use it and build a kingdom so much for themselves, right? They wanted to take this little bit of power that they had learned about and go on out here and do stuff. Right. So they were stealing pages from magic books and everything. But we can also see the same principle if you're familiar with the book of Enoch. Right. Remember what happened in the book of Enoch with the angels who came? Remember the whole conversation that was going on? You should have been when Yahuwah was responding to them, they were sending Enoch to y'all with messages, and he said, and I'm going to sum it up. He said, You got a little bit of information, but you only got enough to get yourself in trouble, right? You should have stayed for the whole class so you could learn how to use these principles that I was teaching you, right? But they learn a little bit of magic, or they begin to understand a few little principles on how this world operates and unseen principles. And we about to get out here. We got this. We're gonna do this. Get out here and get yourself in trouble. Right now, you got a whole gang of vagabonds, rogues that's out here turning the world upside down, trying to join forces with Dormammu and just getting things all screwed up. And the students who actually stay in class, right, and learn about these principles and learn how to control themselves and control the urges to take these things and benefit for themselves. When you learn the proper balance between good and evil, you can now even begin to correct the things that the rogue students have been out here doing, right? Turning the world upside down. You now understand how to take these things and bring them back into balance, right? What are your thoughts on the sister-wife aspect, some practice? I think we talked about this a little bit the other day. I don't agree with it. There's only so far you can go when you, and I'll put it this way. I ain't saying you can't do it. You can do whatever the heck you want to do. I personally, for the serious student, right? The serious student, the person who understands that the purpose of life, yes.
It's definitely raining.
It's definitely raining. For those who understand that the purpose of life, the purpose of coming here, being born into this earth, is to learn about who Yahuwah is and who he created us to be. Thereby, we can then begin to take our place as gods. That's a whole nother conversation, right? If our Father is a God, what would he create his children to be? Would he make his children less than him? No. But you can't just hand the keys of a car over to a 5-year-old, right? And I feel like I just got out of driver's ed. And Daddy let me take the keys every now and again. I can't up and go when I want to, but it's like, listen, okay, go ahead. You go by yourself. Go on down there to the store, come back, right? That's what it feels like to me. I'm like, holy crap. Like, this really works. Like, some of the stuff we see in movies, like, this is like real stuff. Like, oh snap, right? Because as you get a little bit older, you get to practice. You get to do some things that I wouldn't dare let my 5-year-old do, right? Now, I'll let he's 18 now, but when he was like 15, I would let him, come on, you sit in the driver's seat, move us out the driveway. I wouldn't dare do that with my 5-year-old. First of all, you don't understand the first thing about driving, right? The only thing you know is the games that your brothers play, and all you know is Grand Theft Auto, crashing, and nope, you don't even understand. So just get your mind off of it. You ain't ready for that yet, right? It's the same thing with spiritual principles. Some people just not ready yet, so just get your mind off of it. You ain't there. You don't even ask. Don't even look this way. It's not that you can't. It's not that we can't, like, not that it's impossible, because it's absolutely possible, right? If we know who our Father is, we know that he created us just like he is in his image, right? And so all those things that he does, we can also do too. But growth has to come. You have to understand how to do these things so you don't become a vagabond in the earth, right? Some of his children have decided to take some of the principles that he'll teach you while you're growing and use it in ways that are uncouth. I wouldn't recommend that. I say stay in class, learn the full thing, right? And so I look at it that way. That's also, going back to your question, the aspects of the sister wife, having multiple wives. That's something Israel was doing when Yahuwah was telling them, don't do that. Matter of fact, look, what I told y'all before, when I posted, if y'all go to the community section on YouTube, that picture of me and my husband kissing, you can read that. I'm not sure if y'all read that, but they just gave like a little blurb. Ancient Egypt didn't practice that because they knew in order to reach your full identity, to understand who you really are and how we connect to the Father, you can't be connecting to multiple women. You can't have multiple wives. I mean, you can. It's not recommended. If you do, there's only so far you can grow, right? why cut your own self off? That's how I look at it. Why cut your own self off, right? And you create more problems. But people do it. That's their choice. I personally, I don't recommend it, simply because of my outlook on life and how I like to learn and how I like to grow. I don't want stumbling blocks in my way. I don't want unnecessary stumbling blocks in my way that's going to impede my growth, right? And that's a stumbling block you choose to put in your own way. Having multiple wives. Yeah, it might be good in some forms and fashion for those who call it nation building. How much nation you do? Let me what you done built. Let me see how long you been married to your multiple. What you done built? You got a good business going on? Okay, well, who is you teaching? Give me insight into your house. How's y'all children acting? Is they crazy? Then what is your building? What's really good? Like, seriously, there are things you can look at and really see. Some of these guys are struggling with multiple wives, right? They thought it was cool. They done got some bad information from some bad teachers who was doing it too, and they can't even control their own household. Like, come on, my G, no, right? If we step back and not arguing the point like, oh, it's a sin. No, you literally, Yahuwah allows us to do whatever the heck we want to do here. Yes.
Try job here.
What?
Try job. I
see. You kind of drew a little bit up there, right? But it's our choice. He has given us free will, So that's my take on a sister wife aspect. I personally don't recommend it if you're on a path in spiritual growth or enlightenment, as some people call it. I don't recommend it, right? And I don't recommend it simply because as you begin to grow, you know how you may have not seen, but I'm going to post a couple pictures so you can see what I'm talking about. So if you ever looked at hieroglyphs from ancient Egypt, matter of fact, David, you can see some of the stuff with the obelisk and everything now. The original teaching of that, right? Because remember how Yahuwah teaches us about relationship through the Bible with Israel, and Israel committing adultery, i.e. worshiping other gods and stuff. If you look at hieroglyphs or ancient Egypt hieroglyphs, you will see some that would seem sexual in nature, right? You will have the men like laying on their back, holding their penis up or whatever, and a woman over them. First glance, not understanding what they were teaching you, you would think this is like a sexual thing. It's probably like ancient Egyptian porn, right? But it really wasn't. If you notice the person who was laying there and what type of headdress or head wrap they had on, and also the different, and I mentioned it the other day, that if you look at the pictures, there are different symbols over different heads, and some of them are holding ankhs. What they wore represented their level of spiritual growth that they were at. So with women, if you saw bowls over their head, if you saw bowls over their head, 9 times out of 10, they also had an ankh on, or they held an ankh in their hand. That bowl represented purification, and it represented that woman lives a sanctified life. She practices keeping herself clean. I'm like, oh, snap. And so when you begin to learn about different things, it's a lot easier to read the hieroglyphs, right? So different symbols represent different things. Ones with the sun over the head, what they call them, some people, if you listen to somebody teaching now, they say, oh, they're worshipers of the sun god, Ra. No, that's a symbol of enlightenment, that they were one with Yah, right? I'm like, yo, this is crazy. It's so good, and it brings so much. It gives you so much depth and understanding, actually knowing the symbols that they use and how they use it. So when you saw the penis pictures or the man, you would see the head wrap that they had on, and so you could tell what type of person it was. And as that represented them connecting to divinity, and the person, maybe the woman that was over them or whatever, whether it was a set represented the because it's a set and a sar. A set was a female attribute, a sar was the male attribute. I forget, but it's an attribute. But that represented them connecting to Yah in that area. Like they were connecting to Yah, or Yah was feeling the more of that particular attribute, whether it be wisdom or purity or what have you, right? So when we begin to understand those things, it's easier to kind of get through the muddy waters of religion, and you can see how religion has completely turned righteous teachings to something else that it was never designed to be, right? The different cultures or the different religions, if you look at it, they all have pieces of these teachings from ancient Egypt, which were holy and sacred teachings, and teach you how to rightly interact with your creator and how to grow. They've taken pieces of it, they've changed the names, but the principles are still there. Even though they're teaching it wrong, the principles are still there. And if you can, that's why I say it's good to go back to the original teachings and what it represented. Then you can kind of see it clearly. No matter which culture you're looking into, you see that they're all doing, like I say, they're doing the same thing, but they're literally doing the same thing. Even though they misunderstand it, there is a genuine righteous teaching there, right? So I said all that trying to answer the sister wife question. I don't recommend it. It impedes your growth, right? And you should be connected to your creator alone, right? You should worship your creator alone and not just want his stuff, right? You shouldn't want the creator's stuff. You should want the creator himself, right? Because if it's you and the creator, everything that's his belongs to you anyway. Just like a good husband give his wife anything, right? She ain't got to worship diamond ring and the good clothes and stuff. That's going to come to you by default, baby, right? You're mine. All that belongs to me is yours. So don't worship the stuff. Worship me. Come love me. Us, right? That stuff comes to you by default, but people get it twisted and they begin to worship the stuff or the different things instead of the creator himself, not realizing that everything comes out of him anyway and all of that you're going to get anyway, right? So, guys, we are over our time. Not even finished this little chapter. Hold on.
Look, I made.
What we'll do.
Look, I made.
Yes, I see, Tootie.
A person.
You made a person with makeup in my book. Y'all should see it. Y'all gonna see her face when we do this. We're gonna go ahead and close this out. But what we'll do, since we only got to the second page of this, we'll restart this little second portion tomorrow for the reading. But I have to get out of here, right? I didn't realize I'll be answering a few questions today. But I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. Baby girl, where's my little thing? We'll pause right here. I'm gonna just start this over because we had got to the little second page of this. All right, y'all. Go brush your hands off, girl.
It's not working.
It's not working. You're going to have to wash them. Okay. But I hope that didn't sound like rambling to y'all. I hope that actually helped you in a way or two, possibly. You might need to go listen to it again. All right, y'all. But with that being said, y'all, it is Wednesday, December the 8th, 2021, day 322 of year 3 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 990. We read Proverbs 13, 14, and 15, and we started the book Jesus.Never.Existed, and we read pages 1 through page 17. It didn't seem like that many, but it actually, no, I'm sorry. It started on page 11. The other one's like blank pages and pictures and quotes and stuff. So it wasn't that many pages. So I put 11. I just put 1 through 17 in my notes. All right, y'all. Salane, hey girl, hey. Okay, y'all. So let's pull up the blessing. My screen. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, y'all. The blessing is found. Come on, Pootie. Pause that. The blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Girl, come on up here. They about to see your face. Y'all, look at her face. I don't know what she doing. Is she playing with this little, look, her dad bought her this little makeup kit, not realizing it was real makeup in it. And when he found out, he was like, oh, no, this is going in the trash. You know, but it's water-based look. It's like a little small thing, you know. And she liked to play dress up and stuff a lot, right? And so I was like, well, she can learn how to blend it in. I don't really wear makeup a lot. You know, when I do, it's really light, right? It ain't to change my identity. It's simply just the accent, right? And you can barely ever tell that I have it on, right? Because I literally, even when me and my husband go out, I never really wear it, ever. Like, seriously. But yeah, she done put all these different colors on her face and blending it all in. She trying to, anyway. So
you just want some more?
No, not right now, Sudie. Girl, let's do this blessing. All right, y'all.
Lip gloss on first.
I don't need any. I got Carmex on my lips. Why is she doing this? So I forgot to ask you, Joy. You can, while we do the blessing, you can answer the question. You asked me about the sister wife aspect. Is that something you were considering? I mean, not that it's any of my business. I'm curious. Call it nosy, but I'm curious. That's just my take. All right. So let's do the blessing. If you respond, you can go ahead and do it. All right. You done, girl? Remember to stay in the lines, Tootie. All right. Come on. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, on this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts. Hold on, let's pause this. That's distracting us. Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us. Hold on, I'm sorry. Hold on. I started reading that again. Hold on. Yahuwah will lift up the wholeness of his being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right. Yep. Oh, you pointed to the right place. Yeah. When you hit that, it jumped. My eyes went up to the line, back to the previous line. All right, beautiful people. That's it. Okay. All right, Joy.
This on the video.
I see you didn't answer it yet. Okay, beautiful people, but you can still respond later. All right, love y'all.